This wasn't my hike. I didn't plan it. I didn't organize it. The hike belonged to a group of seasoned backpackers who were coming from all over to sample Western Pennsylvania and the LHT. I was invited to tag along, point out some sights, and chronicle their walk on video. The group's core consisted of Dean from Saskatchewan, Canada, Adam from Tucson, Arizona, and Steve from British Columbia, Canada. Joining us for a portion of the hike was Scott from Altoona, Pennsylvania, and Dan from North Tonawanda, New York. Leading the hike was Brian. Brian had brought the men together and planned every footfall. This hike was his brainchild, his vision. But this was more than just a hike. These men had formed an online friendship and were coming together to finally connect and make a donation to Gear Forward. GearForward.org is a non-profit organization that collects used backpacking gear and then provides it free of charge to young people who want to get out to the woods but can't afford it. It's an awesome concept. So these men paid their own way to Pennsylvania and rallied some very generous sponsors to donate some gear to a worthy cause. This hike was a gathering of generous hearts brought together by a passion for the outdoors and a desire to connect with one another. It was an honor to walk with them. The hike began at Route 30 and would end at Hiopile. But like any hike, it's not so much where you begin or end. It's what happens in the middle. And we had a lot of good middle. We spent our first night at the turnpike shelters. Tents that would soon be donated were pitched, and I hung my hammock. We eventually surrounded a nice fire that night and enjoyed a hot meal and some good conversation. Our second day began with an unhurried start, and we began walking south. We soon crossed the bridge over the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The old bridge had been taken down in 2009, and for years hikers had to take a long detour just to get around. The new bridge was dedicated in May 2012 and is a good place to watch traffic go rushing by. Today, we weren't rushing. The sky stayed mostly cloudy and the wind pushed cold all day. Whether we counted degrees in Celsius or Fahrenheit, we all knew it was best just to keep walking. Standing around just made us all cold. We camped our second night at the Route 31 shelters. By the time we reached the area, an on and off drizzle had begun to fall. It was the kind of rain that chilled you to the bone. Brian improvised a poncho for a tarp to keep the wind and rain out of one of the shelters so that we had a place to huddle for some warmth. When darkness came, we each retreated behind our nylon walls and buried ourselves in some goose down. We listened to the patter of rain most of the night. Day 3 began with a chilly hand clutching the air around us. Rain gear was never far away as the clouds seemed like they might easily be provoked. Our plan was to continue south and reach the lodge at Lake Tahoe at Seven Springs for lunch. This would mean a steady ascent to climb to the highest point on the LHT. We were welcomed at Seven Springs by a chilling wind that whipped us hard, making the ascent over the now greening ski slopes a bit of a challenge. The lodge at Lake Tahoe was open, giving us a great place to duck in and get out of the weather. We warmed ourselves by firing up our stoves and brewing coffee and hot chocolate while knocking off some hard-earned lunches. The weather lifted while we ate, and soon after we returned to the trail, we were able to remove some external layers. The hike from Seven Springs to the 653 shelters is relatively easy, requiring only a short but steep climb out of an area known as Blue Hole. Late in the afternoon, we made the steep and sometimes treacherous descent into the 653 shelter area. There, we set up camp, built a friendly fire, and watched as night overtook the forest. We woke the following morning to a day that promised nothing but beautiful weather. Not surprisingly, our spirits were lifted in proportion to the warming sun. Introductions were needed in the morning. Dan had joined us late at night, long after I had fallen asleep. He would finish out the hike with us, bringing our number back to 6. We left the 653 shelters on our 4th day and continued our southward journey. An easygoing trail, coupled with the fabulous hiking weather, made for an enjoyable morning jaunt. A bit before lunch, we reached one of my favorite places on the trail, Twin Lakes. These two man-made lakes are nestled in a secluded spot along the trail and all but beg one to stop and absorb the scene. The trail leads over the southernmost breast and provides a perfect spot to stop, rest, and take in the view. And that's what we did. Not long after lunch, we hit a snag in our plans, and I had to move ahead of everyone else, walking into a high pile a day early. The group stayed that night at the Bidwell shelters and hiked into town the following morning. Although I wasn't able to finish the LHT with them, I understand that they all finished strong and left Western Pennsylvania with a sincere appreciation for my neck of the woods.